So, good morning to all of you. Today, I am going to discuss with you about the mechanism of transcription. First, in this lecture, I will just say about the overview, and as given in your syllabus, in the next lectures, I will directly go through the transcription process in your eukaryotic cells. Okay, so let's get started now. So today I'm going to discuss with you about the transcription process. Well, you have studied bit of transcription process during your class 12 exams in your class 12 syllabus. Generally, this transcription is chemically and enzymatically very similar to your DNA replication, and both of these process involves enzymes that synthesize a new strand of nucleic acid, which will be complementary to a DNA template strand. Okay, so both, whether you are doing transcription or whether you are doing replication, they are very similar in their mechanism, and both of them involve enzymes. Both of this transcription and replication involve enzymes that synthesize a new strand of nucleic acid, and that nucleic acid which is synthesized, it is complementary to the template DNA strand. But obviously there are some important difference between transcription and replication. Okay, and the first difference is that in transcription, new strand is made from ribonucleotides rather than deoxyribonucleotides. That means during your uh, transcription process, your RNA is going to be formed from DNA. Using one of the strands of DNA as a template, your RNA strand will be going to be synthesized, right? There are also some other differences in transcription process. The first difference that we will see is your here RNA polymerase mainly involved in transcription process. RNA polymerase. So RNA polymerase is the enzyme which catalyzes your RNA synthesis by using one of the strands of the DNA as a template. In DNA, there are two strands, and one of the strands will be used as a template to synthesize your RNA. And this RNA polymerase, unlike DNA polymerase, RNA polymerase do not need any primer. Rather, this RNA polymerase can initiate your transcription by directly they initiate at certain regions, obviously, because RNA synthesis does not occur through along the whole DNA. At certain regions in the DNA, if this is your DNA, if this is your DNA strand, at certain regions within the DNA strands known as the transcriptional unit, in that regions RNA polymerase catalyze the synthesis of RNA by using one of the DNA strand as a template. So in RNA polymerase, they don't need any primer. Well, primer are short nucleotides which are needed for initiation of replication, as we see in DNA replication process. Without primer, DNA polymerase cannot able to initiate their DNA synthesis. But here in a case of transcription, RNA polymerase don't need any primer. It can initiate transcription on their own. Okay, they have some sort of mechanism by which they complementary bind with the suitable regions on the DNA where the transcription process will be initiated, and that region are called as promoters. Okay, there are certain regions. If this is a transcriptional unit, there are certain regions in the DNA known as the promoters, known as the promoters. Now, within this promoter region, your RNA polymerase will bind. Maybe they have some regions which will be complementary base pair with these regions. That's why it binds to the promoter and will initiate the transcription process. Suppose from this region, your transcription process will start. Your transcription process will begin from this site. And in this promoter region, it identifies by the RNA polymerase and it binds. But they don't need any primer. Okay. So first difference that we see that in RNA in transcription, RNA is being synthesized rather than DNA. The second difference that we see is RNA polymerase, they don't need any primer to synthesize your to catalyze the synthesis of RNA from DNA. Okay. The third difference that you will see during transcription that the RNA product does not remain base paired to the template DNA. Rather, this RNA polymerase enzyme, the growing RNA chain, only a few nucleotides behind, where each ribonucleotide is being added. Well, through the help of figure, you can able to understand what I am trying to say. So, this is a strand of DNA, as you can see, given in gray color, and here no enzymes has been shown, only the mechanism has been shown. You can see an RNA strand which is shown in green here is being synthesized. So here the RNA which is being synthesized does not remain base paired with the template DNA. Normally in replication, you see that when a newly synthesized DNA strand is being created, it it base pair with its parental DNA strand, right? But in transcription, the RNA which is being formed, it is displacing from the template DNA. It is getting out from the template DNA. Okay, so the enzymes are actually responsible for that. The enzyme RNA polymerase is responsible for this mechanism. This RNA polymerase enzyme displacing, that means it is moving out the growing RNA chain only a few nucleotides behind, where each ribonucleotide is added. Only at this region, only at this site, base pairing between RNA DNA is occurring. This is the growing chain, okay, where constantly the unwinding of DNA is being occurred, because without unwinding your how will the DNA will be separated, and one of the strands of the DNA is using as a template, like here this strand, not this strand, the above strand is not using as a template, the bottom strand is using as a template for synthesizing RNA. For that, unwinding of the DNA is required in the growing strand. Now in the direction of the unwinding, in this direction, your RNA is also going to be synthesized. Okay, and that RNA does not remain base paired with the template DNA. Just after few base pair, you can see the RNA is getting displaced out from the from the from the template DNA strand, and the enzyme is actually doing this work. Okay, now this displacement is very critical for the RNA to be translated to produce the protein product. Now this RNA will be further move out from the nucleus, where it will be used as a template for your synthesis of your protein, right? Okay, so this is the fourth difference that we this is the third difference that we have seen. that the RNA which is being produced has to be displaced out from the template DNA strand as in order to make the transcription process smoother. And secondly, that RNA will be used as a template for the synthesis of protein. That's why we need the displacement. Obviously, now if you say that if the RNA is single stranded, how will it will maintain its structure, how it will maintain its stability? Well, on RNA there are some modifications occur on the RNA, like at the 5 prime end there is a formation of a cap. There is a formation of a cap on the 5 prime end of the RNA, and that cap is called 7 methyl 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate cap. 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate cap. I am writing in short form, but you should not write this one. Okay, I'm just because there is not so much space here in this mobile. So 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate cap. So this cap is used for identification of a ribosome during translation process when we will make protein from the RNA, and also to protect that RNA from getting degraded by the nuclease enzyme present on the nucleus. Now at the end of the RNA, at the 3 prime end, if this is the 3 prime end, at the end of the RNA, now still now also transcription is going on, but at the end, this RNA at the end is also modified by addition of multiple adenyl residues. Okay, now it is done by poly A polymerase. Okay, and this is known as polyadenylation of the mRNA. Okay, so these are some modifications which are being made in order to make the RNA stable. Okay, and also so that to make RNA stable, and so it does not get degraded by nuclease enzyme um, when it is remaining in the nucleus. Secondly, it is also used for identification of the ribosomes during your protein synthesis. Okay, so this is the third difference that you have seen. As you can see that the RNA is getting displaced from the DNA during its process, during its elongation process. Fourth difference is that transcription, although it is accurate process, but it is less accurate compared to your replication process. Now if you are comparing the accuracy, how much accurately nucleotides are being incorporated to the growing chain using the parent DNA strand as a template, according to that thing, transcription is not so much accurate comparing to your replication process. In transcription, one mistake will be made in every 10,000 nucleotides added, comparing to replication where one mistake occurs at every 10 billion. Okay, sorry, 10 million, not billion. Out of every 10 million nucleotides during replication, one mistake occurs during replication. Although they have proofreading activity by DNA polymerase 3 and 1 also, but still one mistake occurs at every 10 million nucleotides. But in transcription, it is it is not so much accurate, because at every 10,000 nucleotides added, one mistakes will be occurring, and that mistakes will be further resolved by using the repair mechanism enzymes. So there are some repair enzymes which you will have in your syllabus, DNA repair mechanisms. They actually identifies that mistakes, identifies that mismatches, and try to rectify them by replacing them with correct nucleotides. Okay. Okay. Now, normally this transcription process is occurring multiple times. The RNA is occurring multiple times, so there does not need to be worried. Okay, but in replication it needs to be worried more because the whole genome is going to be copied, okay, just before your cell division occurs. So if there is more mistakes in replication, then there should be a problem. But in transcription, as multiple RNA are being formed from the same regions, that's why your the transcription, it makes sense that not need to be more worry for the transcription process actually. Okay, well, it makes sense that for a cell that we need to be worry more the accuracy of replication rather than transcription. Why? Because ultimately your DNA is the main molecule which is the where the genetic material is stored. Okay, and DNA replication is the process which that genetic material will be passing on to the next cells, next daughter cells. Now if any mistake occur on the DNA on replication, eventually that same mistake will occur in the transcription and translation as well. That will make to a formation of abnormal protein which will be dangerous, okay, for the cell. So thus, if you compare with transcription, transcription produce only temporary copies of RNA. Now these RNAs that you are seeing here, these RNAs that you are seeing here, these RNAs are the temporary copies. They will not remain for a long time. Okay, they will be easily get degraded after just protein formation occurs. So if you compare with transcription, it will produce only a transient temporary copies and normally several form of each transcribed region. So if a mistake occurred during transcription, it will cause less harm comparing to your replication process. I hope you have understood what I am trying to say. If the main genetic material gets somehow mistakes occur, then it will be catastrophic, it will be hazardous, it will affect the transcription also and translation also. But the RNA which is being produced during transcription, it is only a temporary copy, it will remain for some time, just after protein synthesis it will be degraded. Okay, that's why transcription has less accuracy, okay, compared to replication process. Now the another important difference that I want to say during transcription is that transcription selectively copies only a certain part of genome and makes anything from one to several hundred or even thousands copies of any given section. Now, if you compare with replication, replication must copy the entire genome and do so once in every cell division. Remember the S phase? Well, the cell cycle consists of G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase, and then comes the M phase where the cell division occurs. In the S phase of the cell cycle, your main replication process occurs, right? Your main replication process occurs, and during replication the whole entire genome has to be the whole entire genome has to be copied, okay, because we have to separate equally, we have to distribute that DNA which will be further condensed with the proteins found in the chromosome called as nucleosomes, called as histone proteins, non-histone proteins. Together they form chromatin, they form chromosome-like structure, which will be further distributed among the daughter cells during cell division. Now for that we have to copy all of the genome, okay. But in transcription process, only selectively certain part of the genomes are being copied, because we will see them later, we will see that the whole genome of the DNA is not coding for protein. There are some regions of the DNA called transcriptional units. Those regions are actually encoding the RNA that will bear the function of a protein or enzyme having some regulatory function or synthesis function. Okay. So what about these regions? These regions of the DNA are actually junk DNA or non-coding regions which will not encode for any proteins. But they have some role that has not been mentioned now. Till now research is going on. Uh, it also protect us from mutation. Mutation means change in the base pair, because if we are exposed to too much of radiations, mutations occur, or some chemicals which cause change in the base pairs of the DNA. It actually, most of the regions are found here. If these regions are mutated, then no problem will occur, because it does not codes for any protein. But if the mutation occur in the coding regions where essential proteins are being formed, transcription occurs, then there will be a problem. Okay. So transcription selectively copies only a certain part of the genome and makes anything from one to several hundred or even thousand copies of any given section. It means to say that if this is your DNA, if this is your region where the transcription process is occurring, then and these regions are the non-coding regions. These regions are the non-coding regions. It will not code for any protein, so no transcription occurs. So this region is sometimes copied to several hundred or even thousands if required. Thousand of copies of RNA is being produced from this. If the cell allows that this region is needed to be synthesized to form protein, then this region is transcribed rapidly, multiple times by RNA polymerases. Okay, and if it does not require, then there is some regulatory mechanism. You will see them in bacteria. It is called as operon, where the transcription process is temporarily stopped of that particular region. So at certain regions your transcription process occurs, and it may produce multiple copies of RNA from that transcribed region, from that transcriptional unit region. Okay. Whereas in replication the whole entire genome has to be copied. Okay. Now let us see about the different types of RNA polymerase, which is the main important enzyme found in the prokaryotes and eukaryotic cells. Well, specificity has to be given to eukaryotes because it has been given in your syllabus. So let us see. Well, this is a table which shows the different subunits of RNA polymerase. Before that, I want to mention with you that uh, in bacteria or in prokaryotic cell, they have a single type of RNA polymerase. Okay, bacteria do not have multiple type of RNA polymerase. These are the subunits of RNA polymerase found within the bacterial RNA polymerase. Whereas in eukaryotic cell, there are multiple RNA polymerase, RNA polymerase 1, RNA polymerase 2, and RNA polymerase 3. Bacteria have only single type of RNA polymerase. Okay, so as we can see from this table that bacteria have only single type of RNA polymerase, this one, whereas eukaryotic cell there are three different types of RNA polymerase known as RNA polymerase 1, 2, and 3. Well, RNA polymerase 2 can be compared with your bacterial RNA polymerase. If you want to compare the prokaryotic RNA polymerase with eukaryotic RNA polymerase, then we should deal with the RNA polymerase 2 found in the eukaryotes, because this RNA polymerase 2 actually is main responsible for transcribing mRNA, which is also called as messenger RNA, as I have done with you previously. Well, mRNA is that RNA which will code for that protein, right? There are also other forms of RNA as well, like tRNA, which is your transfer RNA, which will actually helps in translation process by allowing the um, amino acids to be incorporated to the growing polypeptide chain by base pairing with its mRNA by anticodon codon base pairing. There is also some other RNA as well, like rRNA, also called as ribosomal RNA. Now, this rRNA actually is involved in formation of ribosomes, and ribosomes are the sites for protein synthesis. So, as we can see from this table, the bacteria has only one type of RNA polymerase, whereas given on left and on right you can see eukaryotes which have three different types of RNA polymerase. Okay. So we are now going to be discussing uh, each of them. So polymerase 1, if you see in eukaryotes, if you see the RNA polymerase 1, this RNA polymerase 1 in eukaryotic cell, it transcribe your large ribosomal RNA precursor gene, whereas polymerase 3 transcribe your tRNA. So polymerase 3 are involved in tRNA synthesis, whereas polymerase 1 involved in ribosomal RNA synthesis mainly. Okay, but not only that, they also synthesize some more rRNA, like I have said, polymerase 3 synthesizes tRNA gene, but at the same time, it also synthesizes some small nuclear RNA genes, some small nuclear RNA genes, and your 5S rRNA genes. 5S, which are the actually the small subunits which will form your ribosome. Polymerase 2, then what it does polymerase 2 transcribe your mRNA. Polymerase 2, RNA polymerase 2 transcribe your mRNA. Okay, I hope you have understood that polymerase RNA polymerase 1 transcribe your large precursor rRNA gene, ribosomal rRNA gene. Polymerase 3 transcribe your tRNA, some small nuclear RNA called as snRNA, and 5S rRNA genes. And polymerase 2 transcribe your mRNA, which is your messenger RNA, which is the important one, which will actually code for protein synthesis. This mRNA will be used further as a template for protein synthesis. Now, comparing with the bacterial RNA polymerase, we can see that this bacterial RNA polymerase, the core part, the main important part of bacterial RNA polymerase, have two copies of alpha subunit. You can see here, I am zooming it. So it consists of two alpha subunit, alpha 1 and alpha 2. Okay, there is also one beta and beta dash subunit and a omega subunit. So bacterial RNA polymerase, the main important core part, core means the main functional part of bacterial RNA polymerase, contains two alpha subunit called as alpha 1 and alpha 2, uh, the two beta subunit called beta and beta dash, and an omega subunit. Now, these subunits can be closely resembled with the eukaryotic RNA polymerase as well. Okay. Now, if you are comparing with the RNA polymerase 2, the two large beta and beta dash subunit are homologous to the large subunits found in RNA polymerase 2. Again, I repeat, I am repeating again. So, these two large beta subunit, that is beta dash and beta beta subunit and beta dash subunit, they can be compared with the uh, two large subunit found in the RNA polymerase 2. In RNA polymerase 2, the beta and beta dash subunit are similar with RPV1 and RPV2. So when you will see the diagram, you will not find so much difference between the structure of the RNA polymerase found in bacteria and the RNA polymerase 2 found in the eukaryotic cell. The two beta subunits are similar with the RPV1 and RPV2 found in the eukaryotic RNA polymerase 2. The alpha subunits are homologous to the RPV3 and RPV11. So the two alpha subunits, as you can see, these two alpha subunits are homologous with the RPV3 and RPV11. Homologous means similar in structure, not accurate, but similar in structure and function. So the two alpha subunits found on RNA polymerase in bacteria is comparable or similar, or how you can say homologous with the RPV3 and RPV11 found in the eukaryotic RNA polymerase. And the last, the omega subunit is similar with the RPV6. Okay, now the structure of the bacterial RNA polymerase core enzyme is also similar with the yeast polymerase 2 enzyme. So it has been shown yeast is an eukaryotic cell, so it can be compared with that. Okay, which has been shown in the figure. So if I show you the figure, you can able to imagine. Okay, now if I show you the figure of the RNA polymerase found in the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, so the first figure, the A figure, if you see, this is actually, so the first figure that you are seeing, this actually is the figure of RNA polymerase found from Thermus aquaticus. It is found from Thermus aquaticus. Okay, it's a bacteria. Okay, and in this figure you can see the beta subunits shown in purple, the beta dash subunit shown in blue. So the beta subunit, if you see, it is shown in purple color, and I have to use a different color for you to understand. So you can see here the, I have to highlight it with thickness. Okay, so you can see the beta subunit shown in purple and the beta dash subunit shown in blue. Now this type of model is called ribbon shape model. Okay, the beta dash subunit shown in blue, the two alpha subunits shown in yellow and red. If I mark it, so these are yellow and red, these are the two alpha subunits. These are the two alpha subunits, alpha 1 and alpha 2. And these are the beta subunits that shown in purple and blue. Okay, while the omega subunit, sorry, I have mistakenly, sorry for that, I'm again repeating. Okay, I'm again repeating the structure. So the two beta subunits of RNA polymerase in bacteria here shown in purple and blue. The beta dash subunit is in blue while the beta subunit shown in purple. The two alpha subunits are shown in yellow and green. The two alpha subunits shown in yellow and green. And the last one that you can see, this is the omega subunit that's shown in red. Okay. So I hope you have understood. Now, if I have drawn an imaginary line here representing all the structures of the RNA, the components of the RNA polymerase. If you see the structure of beta and beta dash subunit, it must look like a crab claw, just like a crab claw, right? Kankara, crab, crab's claw, the hand of the crab. Now let us see comparing with the eukaryotic RNA polymerase. Now this is the eukaryotic RNA polymerase. I don't think you can see so much difference in the structure. It is almostly similar in structure. So this is the structure of RNA polymerase 2. This is the structure of RNA polymerase 2 found in the yeast. Well, the scientific name of yeast you know, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Here you see the almostly homologous in structure. If you compare with the bacterial RNA polymerase, it almostly shown in it almostly is in similar in structure. Well, I have said about the RPB1 and 2. The RPB1 and 2 can be comparable with the beta and beta dash subunit. Well, RPB1 and 2 here shown in purple and blue respectively. So these are RPB1 and this is the RPB2. Well, RPB1 and RPB2, which can be compared with your beta and beta dash subunit. It can be compared with your beta and beta dash subunit. Beta and beta dash. Well, your RPB3 and 11 shown in yellow and green. RPB3 and 11 shown in yellow and green. This is the RPB3. Sorry for that. Well, this RPB3 and 11 can be compared with your uh, prokaryotic RNA polymerase with the two alpha subunits known as alpha 1 and alpha 2. And the last that you can see the RPB6, which is shown in red. Well, it has been hidden from us. It is here, just here, shown in red here, this region. In the background, you see this is the RPB6 shown in red, which can be compared with the prokaryotic RNA polymerase, which is your omega subunit. Now, if you see the structure as I am mentioning, the overall the shape of each enzyme, it resembles like a crab's claw, and this is reminiscent of the hand structure of the DNA polymerase as we have seen. Well, I have not shown you the ribbon shaped model of DNA polymerase previously. I have just shown you the normal molecular arrangement of the DNA polymerase structure. But almostly the shape of this RNA polymerase can be resembled with the DNA polymerase also. And the two pincers, the two fingers of this crab's claw can be resembles with the beta and beta dash subunit, comparing to the RPB1 and RPB2 in case of eukaryotic RNA polymerase. Now there is active site which is made up of the regions from both of these beta and beta dash subunit found at the base of the pincers with a region called active center cleft. Now within this crab's claw, which is formed of beta and beta dash subunit, there is a region called active site. There is a region called active site. Here it has been shown the active site If I show you, you can see a red dot here. This is your active site. This is your active site. This region is your active site. Okay. Now within this active site, um, or active center cleft, you can see. So this active site is made up of regions from both of these subunits, and it is found at the base of the pincers. Base means at the bottom of these pincers, within a region called active center cleft. Within a region called active center cleft. Now this active site can bind with two magnesium ions. Now within this active site, you will see here in this active site, it can bind with two magnesium ions. So it can bind with magnesium ions, two magnesium ions it can bind, which will catalyze the process of transcription. Okay, and it is consistent with the proposed two metal ion catalytic mechanism for nucleotide addition proposed for all type of polymerase. Now this is normal mechanism that is occurring. Now within this RNA polymerase, there are various channels also that allows the DNA and RNA and the ribonucleotides to come into the RNA polymerase and moves out from the RNA polymerase. Okay, and this you will see in the mechanism of transcription process. Okay, so there are different sites, like for instance there are entering site, okay, where the DNA will enter into this active center cleft region. It will goes out from this region. There is a site where the RNA which is being formed is moving outside. Okay, so that is made by different of the different regions found within the uh, RNA polymerase. There is also a region where you can see where the DNA has to be unwinded here. Okay, where the DNA has to be unwinded here, from where your RNA will be starts to be formed from the DNA. Okay. Now today I am going to just say about an overview of transcription process, because directly they have mentioned the whole transcription process in eukaryotes. So it will be a little bit difficult for you to understand if you have not properly studied in your class 12 exams about the transcription process. But I'm just going for an overview of transcription here. What happened in transcription? Generally, to transcribe a gene, your RNA polymerase has to proceed through a series of well defined steps, which are grouped into three phases: initiation, elongation, and termination. So there are three steps: initiation, elongation, termination. Okay, here we are trying to summarize each of these steps. I will also give you a figure here now to understand the concept. Okay, so what happened in initiation? Now this is a simplified structure of RNA polymerase. As you can see, simplified structure of RNA polymerase. Okay, let us begin now. So in initiation, what happened? There is a promoter region. Promoter region is a place where the RNA polymers will identify and bind. It becomes very thinner. Okay, promoter region is a place where the RNA polymers will bind. So a promoter is the DNA sequence that initially binds the RNA polymerase. Not only the RNA polymerase, together some other proteins are also bind in that place, called as initiation factors or general transcription factors, GTPs, which helps the RNA polymerase to in order to begin the transcription process. So So you can see a promoter region here, you can see a promoter region right here. So promoter region is the DNA sequence that initially binds the RNA polymerase together with the initiation factors. Once it formed, the promoter polymerase complex will undergo some structural changes. So you can see, once it binds the promoter and the RNA polymerase with the initiation factors, it has not been shown here, but there will be some initiation factors which are placed in different sites for for in order to catalyze the initiation process. So once with the RNA polymerase, when the promoter RNA polymerase with initiation factor binds, there will be some structural change in the in that site of promoter. Okay, just like in replication initiation, the DNA around the point where transcription will start, it has to be unwinded. So this region has to be unwinded, because without unwinding, how you will use the template DNA strand for making RNA. Okay, so just like replication, there will be formation of a bubble. Now here the name of that bubble will be transcription bubble. In replication I have said replication bubble, here I will say about transcription bubble. Okay, that bubble will be made from single stranded DNA. So you can see here a bubble has been created here. So a bubble has been created here like this, like this. Now this replication, this transcription bubble, sorry, this transcription bubble, just like replication, transcription will be occurring from a region of 5 prime to 3 prime direction. So it will move from 5 prime to 3 prime direction, and started by the and catalyzed by the RNA polymerase to synthesize RNA by using one of the DNA strands as a template. So just like replication, transcription always occur from 5 prime to 3 prime direction, and unlike replication, only one of the DNA strand will be acting as a template on which RNA strand will be built. This has to be remembered. Here, both the strands are not involved in RNA synthesis. Only one of the DNA strand is used as a template for the synthesis of RNA. Okay, now next part is your elongation. Let us see the elongation part. What happened in elongation? Okay. Okay. So the RNA is the initial transcription where the RNA is synthesized firstly. This is the elongation. So once the RNA polymerase has been synthesized, a short stretch of RNA is of about 10 base pair is shift into the elongation phase. Now, this transition requires further conformational changes in the polymerase structure that leads to grip that template strand more firmly. So, what happened during when RNA is starting to be synthesized? When RNA starts to be synthesized, then what happened? There is another conformational change occurs in the structure of RNA polymerase. Why? So that the initiation factor, which has not been shown in the diagram, has to be removed out, and in place elongation factor comes and binds to help the RNA polymerase to begin the to carry out the elongation of RNA. So there will be some conformational change in the polymerase structure which causes that RNA polymerase to grip with the template DNA strand more firmly. And during elongation, there are various type of tasks which are given by the RNA polymerase in addition to catalyze the RNA synthesis. So here RNA polymerase during elongation does not only do the one job, do the one job, that is, it does not synthesize only RNA, but at the same time it also does the other function as well, like it allows the it allows the it allows the capping factors, so that RNA polymerase have a cap at the 5 prime end. Now this capping, the 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate cap, the 7 methyl guanosine triphosphate cap, this mechanism is catalyzed by three enzymes. Okay, there are three enzymes responsible for the formation of this cap. So RNA polymerase allows that function to be done. Okay. Next, it also do another thing. So it does not only synthesize RNA, but at the same time it also undergoing the cap formation. Okay, it also undergoes splicing formation. Splicing. What is splicing? Well, splicing is a mechanism where the non-coding part of the RNA, called as introns, has to be removed out from the coding regions of the RNA called exons. This is known as splicing. Well, there are some non-coding regions and some coding regions. So if this is your RNA, there are some coding regions which will code for the amino acid, which will code for the proteins, and there are some non-coding regions. Well, the coding regions are called as exons, okay, and the non-coding regions are called as introns. Introns or I, here I am representing them as I. Introns has to be removed out and exons has to be joined. Okay, exons has to be joined to make a mature mRNA product. Okay. Now, so this function is also catalyzed. This also a function triggered by RNA polymerase 2. And the polyadenylation, that is addition of multiple adenylate residues on the 3 prime end, is also catalyzed by the same enzyme. So multiple task is performed by your RNA polymerase in addition with the catalysis of RNA synthesis. Okay, it also unwinds the DNA from the front and rewinds the DNA from behind and dissociate the growing RNA chain from the template as it moves along and performs proofreading function. So you can see here what it does. Many functions it is doing. Firstly, it is unwinding the DNA at the front, because without unwinding the DNA, how will your RNA will be synthesized? Okay, and that unwinded region it synthesize the RNA, and at the end it reanneals. That means it rewinds the DNA from the back. At the same time, it also promotes the RNA modifying enzymes, okay, which are needed for post transcriptional modification of the mRNA, that is your capping factors that will lead to cap formation in the 5 prime region of the RNA. The splicing process, actually splicing process occurs just after the RNA has been synthesized from the DNA. That RNA has to undergo splicing done by some enzymes known as spliceosome complex. Spliceosome complex. Sorry, complex. Okay. And at the end of transcription, polyadenylation will be done. Okay. Plus the RNA synthesis occurring at the same time, simultaneously. Okay, and it also have a proofreading function, although the specificity, there are some mistakes occurred during transcription process, one in every 10,000 base pair. So there is a problem, but that RNA that is being formed is temporary. It will not remain for a long time, and that RNA is synthesized multiple times by multiple RNA polymerase. So there are no need to be worry about if there is some mismatch occurring in one of the RNA. So that was the elongation part. That during elongation, the RNA is going to be synthesized by using one of the DNA strands as a template, and during elongation process, this RNA polymerase 2 enzyme perform multiple tasks in addition with the RNA synthesis, like it unwinds the DNA from the front, then that unwinded DNA, it reanneals the DNA from behind after the RNA has been synthesized, because it is moving na, it is moving, it is not stable, it is moving, so it has to be rewinded the DNA from the back. And it also do the modification, directly does not do, but it recruits, it allows the binding of the enzymes which are needed for capping, which are needed for 5 prime cap formation in the mRNA, which are needed for the splicing process, in order to remove away all the non-coding regions of the mRNA, and the coding regions has to be joined by the process called splicing. That means it allows that RNA polymerase allows the spliceosome complex to do the function of splicing, and it also allows the polyadenylation just after the transcription process is completed. RNA polymerase allows the spliceosome, RNA polymerase allows the polyadenylation factors uh, catalyzed by poly A polymerase, poly A polymerase to catalyze the synthesis of polyadenylation. That means addition of polyadenylate residues at the 3 prime end of the RNA. At the same time, it also perform proofreading functions as well. Okay, so you can see various things are occurring here. Okay. Lastly, at the termination, once the polymerase have transcribed the length of the gene, it or genes, it has to be stopped and release the RNA product. Now this step is called termination. In some cells there are specific well characterized sequences, there are some specific sequence which will be recognized by the RNA polymerase, and that RNA polymerase will identify that yes, we have to now stop the transcription process by identifying the sequence found in the DNA, and then it will terminate. Okay, so as you can see that your RNA polymerase, your transcription process has to go through these three phases: initiation, elongation, and termination. Well, you can see in the initiation, the RNA polymerase identify the promoter region, which is the site for binding of the RNA polymerase, and other initiation factors. Other initiation factors, also called as general transcription factors, bind to this site. Okay, and binds. After binding, there will be change in the structure of the DNA, where where actually the DNA will melt around the region of the promoter and the start site where the transcription process will start, because without unwinding, how will your RNA will be produced from the DNA? Nextly, then the RNA polymerase undergo another modification so that it can more firmly bind with the DNA. And another thing is that so that it allows the binding of the elongation factors, which will elongate the transcription process, which will elongate the RNA synthesis. Okay, then during elongation, what happened? It synthesize RNA. Okay, that's good. And during that time also, it also does other functions as well, like it unwinds the DNA from the front, because it is moving from a region of 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Okay, just like DNA. RNA polymerase can also add nucleotides to the 3 prime end, but unlike DNA polymerase, RNA polymerase do not need any template. They don't need any template. Okay, now during elongation, it performs other tasks as well, like it unwinds the DNA from the front, it reanneals the DNA from behind, and it dissociates the growing RNA chain from the template. Okay, as it moves along, and at the same time it also recruits the modifying enzymes which are involved in modification of the RNA. Okay, like addition of the cap at the 5 prime region of the RNA. Then splicing is done where the non-coding regions of the RNA which has just been formed, the non-coding regions of the RNA which are called as introns, has to be removed out from the exons. Okay, and polyadenylation is also being carried out. Okay, the lastly is there is termination. In termination, what happened once the polymerase have transcribed the length of the gene, it has to be stopped and has to release the RNA product, and this step is called termination. Now in some cells it is very specific, like there is some important regions, there are some important sequences which will helps to identify the RNA polymerase that yes, we have to stop now the transcription process, right? And they will cease to transcribe, and that RNA polymerase will dissociate from the template strand. Okay, so I hope you have understood what I have tried to say today. Okay. Okay. So that's all for today's lecture. I hope you have understood what I have said. If you have any doubts regarding this first lecture of transcription process, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Okay.